Welcome to
NSCoder Chicago.
Welcome to
NSCoder Chicago.
Welcome to
NSCoder Chicago. NSCoder Chicago.
Welcome to
Hey, you're listening to the NSCoder Chicago podcast. Here we chat about topics related to Apple, software development, career, and technology in general. Many times we even get into AI. Thanks for joining us for episode 9. My name is David.
And my name's Sean. NSCoder is a monthly meetup here in Chicago. Our next meeting's on the 27th of January. We generally meet on the last Tuesday of every month. You can find more information about our meetup, our group, and all of us at nscoder-chicago.com. Or if you go on Meetup and search for NSCoder Chicago, or generally just Apple Developer Meetup, you'll find us. We'd love to see you. All are welcome.
Yes, that's just a couple weeks from today, so make sure to get it on your calendars. You can find the specific event at Meetup, like Sean said.
Yeah, come on down.
So something that I feel like every developer is regularly faced with is an opportunity to improve their project, their code base, and it becomes a real question of how big of an improvement do I want to make? Is this the right time to make that improvement? And how many people are going to be okay with this or not on the team?
Yeah.
And so I thought today might be a good idea to talk about. It might be a good idea to talk about refactoring, just because that's a problem that we all face, and I think we've got some ideas about when to refactor, how big a refactor should be or not at any given time, and it's probably just good project management advice and food for thought for everyone. So. Yeah, I wonder,
Yeah,
you got any thoughts on the right times to refactor?
Yeah, when to refactor.
Yeah.
It's funny, yeah, when you're a solopreneur, when you're an indie
Yeah.
dev, it's your workspace, so you clean it up when you feel like it.
Oh, yeah.
But as soon as you introduce dependencies and teammates
Mhm.
and market forces and
Mhm.
Apple's yearly release cycle, it gets a lot more complicated.
True, yeah.
And even for me, over the Q4 of last year, I was interviewing for new jobs in engineering leadership. And the question is always, how do you balance tech debt? When do you know to refactor?
Okay.
What's good tech debt versus bad tech debt? That's another question that comes up all the time.
Oh, okay.
So when to refactor? There are many, many smart people who have thought about this deeply. And we're going to throw our hat into the ring.
Yeah, it's people who are just like spending a little time thinking about it now and
Yeah.
sprinkled throughout our career.
Yeah, what do these two knuckleheads think? Well, we'll tell you. So, I think, I always come down to solve the most important problem. So if you're building a software product and let's say, for example, you don't have any customers, you're not making any money, then I would say that you should probably prioritize that first. Money would be nice.
Yeah.
But then immediately after you ship, you're going to get feedback from customers. You're going to hear from people that are using your product in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
And all your really smart design and architecture and abstractions in the code might seem misguided. Maybe you thought,
Sure.
I really need to build a templating engine because people are going to need to, use this to make a bunch of different documents.
Oh, yeah. That's the most tempting one, the templates.
Yeah, and then nobody uses it.
Yeah.
So my advice is always to let the customer lead, let your most important thing lead you, and that's a great way to start.
Yeah, I like that. There's a pretty popular idea in software and beyond. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. What do you think about that?
There's a blog post, if you go way back, from Joel Spolsky, Joel on Software, his, for a generation of programmers, his blog was the like text, the foundational knowledge of what we all sort of thought about building a software team, building a software product. But one phrase that he wrote sticks in my mind, and I'm probably going to get the context wrong. And like, when somebody remembers a quote and then gets it backwards, like he in one of his posts, he said like, as if code rusts, because unlike pretty much everything else that humans have built and since civilization was invented, code doesn't degrade on its own.
Oh, well, I have thoughts about that, but sure, yeah.
It's more complicated than that, right? Like, but if you have
Yeah.
a system that is well built, well tested, secured,
the
the hardware underpinning it doesn't change and it can still connect to the internet,
sure.
then why touch it, right?
Yeah,
it's good.
Mhm.
But as I just said, in all the exceptions,
Mhm.
the things that will force us to fix things that aren't broke
Mhm.
is getting ahead of hardware changes, security vulnerabilities, new technologies. Maybe
Yep.
maybe performance
Yeah.
drives that. So even though something isn't broke, there might be brokenness on its way
That's
to your
right.
product.
Yeah, last episode we talked a little bit about swizzling, and the danger of that is that you might replace some functionality that something else relies on, and that of course can create bugs and even security vulnerabilities. The same thing can happen just with time. You might build your code relying on a framework, relying on some tools that eventually start to change. And the truth is, even hardware and operating systems will change. Uh, uh, and as those changes happen, naturally there's going to be some things that will break in your projects. Um, I I can't think of a time that I've set a project aside for more than 2 or 3 years and have been able to open it and run it reliably again. Usually I open it and there's a ton of fixes I have to make simply because the environment has changed. And it's so funny to me when I talk to programmers who have that mentality. I don't know if you can sense any spite in my tone, but I
Maybe we'll cover that later in the show.
oh, maybe, yeah. I once had a team lead who believed that, well, if no one made any changes to it, it should work. And that's just not.
Well, yeah, it should.
Yeah. That ends up not being true a lot of the time. In fact, if you leave a project
Mhm.
alone for long enough, it will stop working. And so yeah, this idea of like code doesn't rust is something that definitely rubs me the wrong way, because I've had to advocate for the fact that yes, code does go bad. Maybe it's based on what kind of tools you're relying on, what your dependencies are. But the truth is, some upkeep is needed, and you can't expect something that worked for a long time even to continue working forever.
Yeah, with our experience and our audience probably mostly being iOS and Mac and iPad and Vision OS developers, Apple's platforms continue to roll forward. And so Apple's pretty good about maintaining compatibility, but at some point something is going to come up. It's going to be the,
Oh, yeah.
liquid glass, and you're like, "Well, I haven't touched this in 6 years. It still runs, but it certainly
Mhm.
doesn't build."
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
or it's always better to make a lot of small changes over time that sort of de-risks development,
Yeah.
as opposed to waiting 6 years and then
Right.
picking up the thing again. Um,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder if anyone out there, because like there is this fantasy, to me at least, that like, as maybe not as an iOS dev, but as like a server side developer, you'd make a Docker container that worked and you never had to touch it again. Like if there were security issues, you could put sort of a firewall around it or something, and like that's
Oh.
it. You just have a code block that you never have to think about.
Yeah.
But I don't think even that exists.
Yeah, that's it's tempting to feel like there's some kind of platform out there that must experience that kind of permanence. Uh, I think the only way you could achieve that is by not having any dependencies at all, or by those dependencies being so simple, uh, not doing too much or doing something very specific, that they're able to almost exist in their own bubble separate from their environment. Um, but the truth is, if you're connecting to the internet, you need some kind of interaction, and that interaction will evolve over time. Things that are totally out of your control. For example, not long ago, many platforms and services had to deal with the change from HTTP to HTTPS. And suddenly, if you were only supporting HTTP, you were deemed insecure. If your website didn't serve HTTPS, Apple will even throw like a warning saying like, "Hey, you might want to watch out with this one. Maybe turn around right now."
Yeah.
And that's something that it's just purely based on the environment, had nothing to do with the code base itself. And then there's even more serious or more. I want to think like security related things in terms of like OS level. Have you heard of the WannaCry security issue?
No.
Or maybe Heartbleed issue?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Heartbleed. I remember. Yeah.
Basically, these were issues that had to do. I'm not sure if it was the OS level or actually the hardware level, maybe somewhere in between. I think with one of them, it was a way that Windows would just kind of, handle its programs, and that it would load things ahead of time, and if you, knew how to find out what it was loading ahead of time, you could bypass the security lock.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are things like this that are like totally out of your hands. And so I don't know, maybe if you're making one of these standalone music devices that don't even connect to the internet, maybe it will work forever. Um, but if you're interacting with the environment around you and accessing the internet, maybe even just like plug and play with other devices, you're probably gonna need some refactoring at some point, or at least some legacy support from other people who are willing to kind of bring you along, carry your technology stack into the future.
Yeah. Yeah. The internet is a hostile environment. So yeah,
Yeah.
any application that reaches outside of just the local machine and um goes to the wider internet, to reaches into TCP/IP somewhere out there,
Hmm.
uh anything in that zone is out of your control. And I do
Right.
remember, I have a real I wasn't directly in the path of it, but I remember a very stressful couple of days a few years ago. I think it was a like root problem in Java, like in
Mm.
Java virtual machines. And so
Hmm.
like every service that used the JVM, but from like this version to that version, somebody listening is like, "Oh yeah, that was blah." But
Mm.
it affected everything. And so like our security and compliance team and all the engineering leaders had to get together and inventory everything. It's like, okay, what do we have that uses the
Hmm.
JVM? And we have to find everything that touches the JVM and make
Yeah.
sure it's updated. And that, maybe it goes without saying, that was a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
That was no fun.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, so much of modern software development is outside of your control.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Even
so,
even if you are on a single platform, you know,
yeah. Yeah.
the Mac is going to have security things. So eventually,
Right.
somebody's going to have to update their Mac software. You can't
Yeah.
just sort of run on a 20-year-old MacBook Pro
Yeah. As
or I
great
guess a
as Mac has
PowerBook.
been with security, yeah, even they will need some fixes over time.
Yeah.
Um, and so the thing we're really getting at is refactoring is probably going to be necessary with almost every project, if you maintain it for long enough. Um, and so you shared some ideas of when you thought it might be a good time, or also not good times. For example, when you want to make money. Um,
Yeah.
uh, my feeling is that for me, the right times to refactor are kind of size based. They're based on the size of the
Hmm.
refactor. And so, let's say that you're working with a view. and you've built your project modularly enough that you can serve any view in its place. You can even have different versions of that view. Any changes that you make are going to be pretty small and isolated to that view in that case. If that is the case, then I think that's a great time to refactor almost any time that you go into that view and you know something could be better. Especially if you can just roll back to the last version of that view and it doesn't affect anything else. Um, Now, if you are doing something a little more architecture related, that's going to be a lot harder to sell because something like that could take maybe a week or two to develop, and then even longer to test, and you're still going to be like crossing your fingers when it actually releases into production that everything works just as good, if not better, than before.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, you touched on small iterative
mhm,
changes. You
mhm.
dropped the word test at least once in there.
Yep,
Uh,
yep.
like the on the best teams that I've worked on, refactoring is kind of like waves on the shore, right? Like it's just
Oh,
slowly, eroding the sand,
mhm,
slowly refining. Um, because yeah, any big blast, any big change is going to carry risk,
mhm.
and if you don't have tests in place, then how do you know that the old thing worked? How do you know that the new
Sure.
thing worked? Like
Yeah,
it's just complexities upon complexities.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but yeah, the sort of blast radius, the sort of size,
Mhm,
the um, uh, the risk reward ratio,
mhm.
all that comes into mind. And then
Right.
for more entry level engineers that I've talked to, there this is a theme. More immature, more entry level people tend to look for a framework. They want like, okay, when do I refactor?
Right.
And as so many things, there's a little more art than science to this, where it's like, you kind of have to feel it, like
So true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what do you think is risky, or if you're
Yeah.
lucky and you have a third party that maybe audits your code, or if you can get
Mhm.
code reviews, then other tools will poke in and say, this looks kind of flimsy, maybe you want to think about fixing this part.
Yeah, I think you're getting at an interesting point where refactoring is not so much a technical question, or in terms of when to refactor, it's more of a people question. It's like, when do you feel like it's a good time to do it? When is your team going to agree with that? When is your management going to allow you to do that? Because the truth is, you can, make these updates at any time, really. Uh, you're It's just that the people that you're working with, maybe you yourself are going to have different opinions about whether it's okay to do that now or not. Um, and sometimes you might have to sell your team on it too, because they might be against it at first until they realize, like, oh, this refactor really is needed. Um,
Yeah, that's another one of those big sort of engineering leadership questions. Whether you're a manager or like a more senior engineer, how do you explain to people why it's needed? Because you go,
hmm
I don't know, theoretically you go to like the CEO and you're like, we
hmm
really need to change this thing. And he's like, what do I care?
Sure. Yeah.
He or she is like, it works. Why
hmm
don't bother me with this?
Right, right, yeah. And when you're that far away from it, it's easier to subscribe to that mentality of, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. If there's not a clear issue, if it's not, clear as daylight, then,
Yeah.
don't touch it.
Yeah, it takes a little bit strategic thinking to get ahead of problems. I think
Yeah,
that's what I opened with, is like, at rest, you don't really need to do anything. Maybe for your own uh satisfaction, your own well-being, you want
sure.
to clean up the code as you go, and you're like, "Oh, this is kind of opaque. This loop is kind of not performant. Maybe I'll fix this up, fix that up." But
hmm
when you zoom out a little, it's really about getting ahead of problems, because you
Yeah.
you don't want to have an alarm go off that everything's broken and it's 2 a.m. and suddenly now you have to figure out this messy thing. You want to be
Yeah.
hopefully slightly ahead of that.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. And there is a certain uh, um, level of tolerance that some teams might be willing to take versus others. You might notice that something about your architecture, something about the systems you set up, might have some like pretty bad edge cases that you, as the developer, know how to hit immediately, but
Yeah.
only a small percentage of your user base is actually going to experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some teams are willing to accept that.
Yeah, and you make a good point going back to that risk reward. Like
Hmm.
if you understand your customers as an engineer, or if you have colleagues in QA or product that
Hmm.
can help to give you certainty, and you're like, well, if this bug happens, it completely crashes the system, but it only happens to 1 in 400 million. Then it's like,
Right,
okay,
right.
we can probably live with that.
Hmm.
Uh but then
Yeah,
obviously it happens to, like, 1 in 2. You're like, well, maybe we should fix that sooner.
yeah. I worked at this really great company in San Francisco for a short time. That had a huge user base. They were in the medical field, and they had charts. It sounds like, I mean, it looked like your typical like Silicon Valley startup. They had like all of their statistics on the wall for their users across the world, and how well their software was performing across the different platforms. And one thing that we were really excited about on the iOS team was that we were like 99.9% crash free. Like
Yeah.
we were doing really good. But then occasionally we would start to obsess over that, like that 0.1%.
Yeah.
But we would take a look
Yeah.
at it every once in a while, and we'd say like, is there a way we can fix this? I think almost every time we looked at it, it felt like something that was actually OS related on Apple's side of the fence, or at least that's what we told ourselves.
Oh yeah, but that doesn't make you feel better.
Right? Yeah, yeah. But we would always look at that and say like, oh, is there a way we can fix that?
I think a lot about the net suffering.
Oh, sure.
This
Yeah.
is like, if even in outside of software, even in real life, like if I drive my car,
Hmm.
like what is the externalities of like burning fuel, the tiny little like addition to climate change. Like
Hmm.
maybe that's crazy, but when we think about the actions of corporations,
Oh, yeah.
specific to software,
Hmm.
when Apple has an annoying liquid glass bug, maybe the app doesn't crash,
Mm.
but it's just frustrating. And they
Yeah.
have, I don't know, a billion users. And so you take the percentage and you're like, 0.01% of users are frustrated by this, times they spend 4 hours on it, times a billion users equals Apple has caused, 6,000 hours of suffering this week,
Oh,
or something
man.
like that.
Yeah,
And you can use that
yeah.
in your own app. You just figure out how frustrating it is, times your install base, and then yeah.
You're making me realize that I should really relish these low numbers that I have right now. I'm like not gonna be hurting too many people with any bug.
When to refactor. Okay, so we covered, if there's a problem incoming,
Hmm.
you want to get ahead of bugs, security issues, abstractions, customer demands.
Hmm.
Uh, there, there's also, your own sort of personal taste.
Right.
Um, a lot people I used to work with called it the Boy Scout rule, like tidy as you go, leave the area better than you found it.
Oh, yeah. Be a good resident.
Yeah.
Hmm.
If you go into a code base and you see things that can be improved and it's not, major, just tidy up
Oh,
along
yeah.
the way.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, and then there's the worst scenario, which is you're getting paged at 2 a.m. because everything's broken and you have to figure out what the heck happened.
I think that might cover it. Um, but if you, listener, have any ideas on when to refactor, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Or come to NS Coders and tell us in person.
Yeah, talk to us about it. Yeah. There's there are like rules of thumb that I have read before that get more specific. Like if you find yourself with methods that have like more than one responsibility, like
Mm.
maybe you should refactor.
Oh, okay.
Things like that.
Huh.
So there's, I mean, I won't go and inventory all of those, but yeah, if you just do a quick search, or ask your favorite LLM chatbot,
Yeah,
they'll tell you all sorts of rules of thumbs for
sure.
like actually, precise ideas on when to refactor.
Everything we've considered and that I'm hearing feels so opinion based that I kind of just want to say,
That's,
just refactor when you want to. Do it whenever
yeah,
you want
I
to.
mean, that's,
If
yeah,
it's your project, especially, if it's your team, whenever your team wants to,
yeah, man, just do what feels good. Exactly. Well, I keep saying more art than science.
Oh
As much
yeah.
as I would love, the a specific rule to make it so much easier to just know exactly when.
Hmm.
So much of it is just, what can we live with?
Yeah.
What's annoying? Uh, what feels good?
And like oftentimes in nature, there's never really one right answer. It's all dynamic. It's all fluid. If
Namaste.
yeah. In last week's episode, we were talking about imposter syndrome, and for a brief second, we almost got into like what's the worst experiences related to imposter syndrome, and I almost made a detour into worst experiences in programming in general. But that made me realize that maybe that might be an interesting topic to cover too. What are the worst experiences that we've had in programming, and is there maybe something to learn from those experiences? Um, should I start, or how? Are you interested in that?
Well, yeah, I can certainly dish.
Okay.
Hopefully, our listeners enjoy some indirect gossip. But
Yeah.
no,
Spilling the tea,
I
guys.
kicked off the last one. So if
Sure.
you want to go first, yeah, lay it on me. See if we can one up one another with worst experiences.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Um. So I've got an experience that basically kicked off my burnout period, uh and made me wonder, if I'd ever feel passion for programming again. It wasn't so dramatic as that, especially not when it happened. It was kind of a slow creep, but basically what happened was, on our team, uh uh you know you have different tasks that you need to complete, and those tasks take so much time to complete, and in truth, there are different people who might complete those tasks faster than others. um speed of those tasks, speed of completion is not really the issue here, even though I'm sure for some people that can get a little dicey. But in this case, for me, it was a thing about, uh, I mean, it's kind of funny to talk about it sometimes. It feels a little bit petty almost. But basically, I was working on a team where we were, developing different features for a framework, and as we're developing these features for a framework and publishing them, we need to also publish documentation for those features. The funny thing was that we were having some developers do the features and then other developers do the documentation for those features. And oftentimes, or more than once, what I saw happening was that the documentation would have to be rewritten because it didn't capture it the way the developer intended it to be documented. The problem was that there was no real system for capturing what the developer wanted to be documented, and what the documentation needed to look like. And so the person who was having to document the feature would often start with the very, basic version of it, just like based on what it did in the code. And then it would turn out that, they needed to consider these other parts and connect it. And what you would end up with was back and forth between the person writing the documentation and the person who wrote the feature. And I thought this was so silly because there's the person who clearly has the knowledge, and then there's a person who's like trying to capture the knowledge, and both people are developers, both people should be writing code. Uh, but what we had was a situation where the person who knew what needed to be documented was not the person who was writing the documentation. And I thought that was such a simple gap to fix, you know. Um,
Yeah.
it was less than a year into this role too. Um, and so at one of our meetings where we were kind of it was you have these scrum review meetings, right?
The sprint
Sprint
review.
review, I think. And what I learned at this company is that some places are looking for improvements more or less than other places.
That's for
You
sure.
know, yeah. And so one of the things I brought up was that, hey, for the past few sprints, I've noticed a lot of back and forth between the people who've developed code and the people documenting code. I think we could save a lot of time if we just had the people who develop the code document their own code. If you write it, you document it. Pretty simple, I think. And for some reason, there was a lot of pushback on this from one specific developer. And the worst part was that it was the developer whose code I was documenting. And that's where, it was easy to kind of see this as a petty thing where I was like, it was easy to see it as me just being like, I don't want to do this, Um,
Yeah.
but in truth, I saw a real gap in like, hey, if he wrote this himself, he'd get it done in one shot. And I'm having to rewrite it for him 3, 4, 5 times, and so I just offered that up as like a fix that we could do to like be a little more efficient as a team instead of having to write documentation, up to 5 times for a new update. Maybe we just write it once and the person who wrote the code writes it.
Oh yeah. Anytime there's a handoff in
Mm-hmm.
anything,
Mm-hmm.
you lose organizationally, you lose a ton of context.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
It's like the telephone
like
game, right? You
yeah,
whisper into someone's
exactly.
ear and you lose
So
something.
yeah, so you write something and you're like, I think I captured it. And then
Yeah.
the person that actually knows has to be like, no, like this. And it's like,
Right.
wouldn't it be faster to just close this loop? Or maybe
Absolutely.
if you need two people, maybe making a pairing session, like, okay, let's do it together. So we
Yeah.
don't have to have these back and forth and back and forth.
Exactly. You
Ugh.
get it. I'm glad you get it because I was telling this team and it seemed like they didn't get it. And so that's the problem, or at least the problem I was presenting. Uh, the thing that really killed things for me was that first there was pushback without any real reason to like the developer that was writing the code was I think they were maybe feeling a little bit guilty about the fact that there were so many rewrites and maybe they felt like blame was being pushed to them. That wasn't what I was trying to do in that conversation. It was more of saying like, hey, as a team, we could just work more efficiently.
Yeah.
And I think it became a thing of me suggesting a new way to do things and him trying to defend why he had so many, changes recommended.
Oh, I think we've all been in those meetings where you're like, am I crazy? Like, why are we doing this? And everybody that's worked there for a while is like, no, this is totally normal. This is just how we've always done it. And you're like,
Right,
this doesn't
yeah.
make any sense. I must be missing something.
To the
But it's
point where there's
so,
almost no consideration for any other way.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. And that's what I was facing here, really.
Yeah.
And so I think I was still, let's say I wasn't really thinking of this so much from a manager standpoint as much as a developer standpoint. Because
Yeah.
I think from a manager standpoint, you might zoom out and say, like, okay, this team member is proposing this fix, but this team member feels like they have to defend themselves. Let's maybe deconstruct this a little bit more. Maybe we can even pull it offline.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think we've all been in so many meetings. I
mhm,
don't think this is exclusive to software, but you see it a lot in software where there's that one dude who's
mhm.
like, no, this is
Yeah.
how we do it. You don't understand. We have
Yeah.
to do this architect. And you're like, who, for what? Who are you? Why?
Right. Right. Yeah. And the tough thing is, it's really hard to be the guy who like has it deconstructed to the level that it's like 100% clear. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of like socially. It's just a hard position to be in.
Yeah.
And so the points were made clear. and then we kind of got to a point where no one really had anything left to add to that conversation. And then they tried to move on to the next topic. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Are we going to make this fix or not? Like we really should, make this fix because it'll save us a lot of time. It's frustrating to deal with the back and forth. And the specific comment that like really like turned things upside down for me was when it was the engineering lead actually who was in this meeting with us, and he's like, all right, does anyone have any other ideas for ways to make things better? And that's when I was like, oh wait, but are we gonna make this fix? And then he was like, I said, does anyone else have any other ideas for ways to make things better? And I'm like, oh, he just doesn't want to continue this conversation. And I'm like, I'm being shut down right now, and I'm like, oh man. All right, well, so much for, recommending ways to make things better. And that just killed my motivation on that team for a long time, for the rest of the time I was there, honestly. And the truth is, I still wanted to do my best work. I wanted to be proud of the work that I did there. But it was hard to do more than I needed to do.
Oh yeah. I mean, you opened with, some companies are more committed, some teams are more committed to
Yeah.
iterative improvement than others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it is so hard to have a meaningful retro and get a team that has that psychological safety and that trust so you can actually make improvements.
Yeah.
And as you experienced, I'm sure we've all been there. It's
Mhm.
so easy to break that trust. If you see
Yeah.
fairness and consistency broken,
Yeah.
it's like, why bother? If you're not going to
Yeah.
listen to me in this throwaway meeting, why should I give you my best
Exactly.
work? Why would
Yeah.
you listen to me in anything? Yeah.
You are 100% right. That was exactly how I felt. And it was a conversation about documentation. It wasn't like the end of the world. And I was being shut down over that, it's like,
Oh yeah, because the small
yeah,
things add up, right? Like,
exactly.
oh man,
Yeah.
I'm getting fired up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling those emotions come back. But I'm so glad to not have that over me anymore, because I continued to work there for another like 4.5 years on top of that.
Oof.
Yeah, it's a long time to deal with burnout. It's a long
Yeah.
time. But at the end of the day, they're still good experiences. I still valued my team members. I just had a little less drive, a little less energy
Yeah.
and excitement for it. And I think that drive and excitement, while you can work without it, life is so much better if you have it. If you
Yeah.
really do
Yeah.
believe that the work you do it matters, and that your opinion is valued, and that when you make a recommendation that you think is going to be better, at the very least it'll be considered, and even if it's turned down, maybe there's a reason why.
Yeah. At
But
least you want to
yeah,
feel heard.
yeah.
Yeah.
Life is better if you have that much. But yeah, I would say for anyone listening and trying to learn from worst experiences, maybe watch out for shutting down your developers or your team members without reason, because you can really,
Yeah.
kill a really valuable part of their spirit and their time working there.
Ain't
Yeah.
that the truth? As you're telling the story, I go back to the burnout checklist. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
okay, autonomy, okay,
Hmm.
workload, I don't know,
Yeah.
reward, unclear,
Hmm.
trust, respect, reciprocity, maybe not, fairness and
Hmm.
consistency, doesn't sound like it.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I yeah, I on my YouTube channel, I have presentations that I made when I was at Active Campaign for like Mental Health Awareness Day and some other stuff.
Hmm.
And at Vocal, the agency I worked at a million years ago, and at Active
Hmm.
Campaign, not to disparage the other places I worked, but there were periods of time at both of those places where I really felt at home. I felt
Hmm.
like safe and supported and aligned. I was part of a community, building
Nice.
something together,
Hmm.
and I wanted so badly. This is why I bring up the presentations. In those presentations, I said like I'm doing this. I'm exposing myself for Mental Health Awareness Day because I want everybody to feel this. Like I really I really
Yeah.
want people to be able to come to work,
Hmm.
bring their whole self, feel supported, feel like they're part of a community working on something together.
Yeah.
But it's so sad because most jobs are not that, and I'm like chasing that high,
Mm.
trying to get back to like I know it's out there somewhere. I
Yeah,
want I
yeah.
want to get there.
That is the sad truth. Most jobs are not like that. Yeah. I'm also, as time has passed, I've realized that something that really matters is maybe it's related to the autonomy that you mentioned, but being able to shape the environment that you're in has a lot of value. Either
Yeah,
that or having someone who shares your same values shaping the environment, whether that's a
yeah,
great team lead, great, engineering lead.
yeah,
Um, it's if you can influence the environment, then at least you know that when you spot the problems, they'll get resolved. And even
yeah,
as someone who's entry level, if you spot some problems, at the very least you should feel heard, and like maybe someone will resolve those for you.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
I go out of my way to encourage that with the teams I work on and with. Like if somebody, because I know it's awkward to give feedback and to get feedback and to suggest changes.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's not like people really want to speak up in a public forum and say, excuse me, what about this? Like that doesn't
Right.
come naturally, I think, to
Yeah.
most people. And so
Yeah.
I do my best to just encourage the heck out of that. If somebody speaks up, even if it's a bad idea and we ultimately decide we're not going to do it, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, thank you for speaking up. Thank you. Like
Yeah.
that is good. That is good behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it takes good leadership to really be able to establish and maintain that kind of vibe because
Yeah.
uh sometimes, I mean in many places really, if you suggest an improvement, there's going to be someone, kind of like I experienced, who feels like they're being blamed or that they're being accused of some fault.
Yeah.
Whether you intend that or not, there's going to be someone who feels like, oh, maybe they're being called out for it, having, done not as good a job as they could have or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the truth is, a lot of times it's not that, especially from engineers, it's a lot of times it's just like, let's just fix the system. At
Yeah,
least for me.
exactly.
Yeah.
The yeah, it becomes crazy making when it's again it's like everybody else has a secret plan that you're not
Hmm.
privy to. I mean,
Oh,
not
yeah.
that not that you're paranoid, but like
Sure.
some places you work at, it's like all secret handshakes and implicit unspoken processes,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
like, how do I do anything? It'd be like if you decorated your desk. You have a desk at work, and you put your mug and your photo of your family on
Hmm.
on, and like every day somebody like knocks it over. And
Oh,
like, whoa,
no.
why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what's the point? And
Yeah.
no, and then nobody tells you anything.
Oh.
Uh,
Hmm.
that, but metaphorically,
Oh, sure.
I've got some real quick stories. I can talk thematically like big stories, but real quick, like
Uh-huh.
in prepping for this, because you're like, oh, let's talk about like our worst experiences.
Yeah.
Like, I'll tell you right off the gate,
Hmm.
and hopefully the statute of limitations has passed. No ill will,
Yeah.
but being sexually harassed by clients,
Oh, no.
worst thing ever.
Wow.
Like, and I can laugh like we laughed about it even at the time, but like,
Hmm.
um, male clients saying shitty things about uh, developers that we worked with,
Oh,
either
wow.
because of gender or sexual orientation
Sure.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that, ugh, that was just the worst.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I can imagine. Jeez.
and you would maybe somebody listening would be like, well, it was 2012, but like, no,
Oh,
it was
well.
still wrong then.
Yeah,
Uh,
society has gotten more sensitive to it, but there's been people experiencing the brunt of that for a while.
And it only happened. It's not like it was constant. It only happened
Mm.
a few times, but
Hmm.
like I'm leading the team and then a client says something disgusting.
Yeah.
And like, I remember just being aghast. I like, my mouth is open in
Mm.
the conference room and I'm like, what do you even do?
And that's a
Cause I,
tough relationship specifically with the client because let's say it's a coworker or, you can complain to HR about that. When it's a client who you're hoping to make money from, there's almost this
yeah,
pressure to be
exactly.
like, hey, you got to go with the flow just to,
Yeah. And
make that buck.
we
Yeah.
were all much less mature. We were building this agency. So like,
Hmm.
that was the advice. It was just like, let's just not have these people in the room and we'll contain it. But like the right
Yeah.
answer, the moral answer is to fire the client.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I also, on the flip side, I had a client, every time she came to the office, she would touch me and my Android partner, not like inappropriately, but just, it's not nice to be touched unexpectedly. And
Yeah. Yeah.
we would be working and she'd be like, let me see it. And then she'd be like, oh, that's nice. And like put a hand on a shoulder or like the back of the head. And I'm like, no.
Just a little more personal than you expected,
Yeah.
than you wanted.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm sure when you asked, you were like, well, what sort of like, software problems did you run into? But like
Oh, well.
this came to mind immediately.
Yeah.
This was the big one. Yeah. And then you touched on it. We touched on it.
Okay.
The other like worst experiences, and I'll sort of collect 3 of them together, is that, I don't want to say gaslighting because like that's very, that's a very aggressive word.
Sure.
But the inconsistency where team members or the vice president or the founder would say, oh yeah, we totally want to support people and we want feedback. But then you would ask for support either for yourself or for your team, or you would have feedback and you would be just shut down.
No.
And,
Wow.
and immediately, as your experience, immediately my brain is just like, all right, this person's on the list. They're not going to help me.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame because, like you said, people want to make things good. You just have to be open and collaborative.
Yeah, it's amazing how much drive people in general have to kind of do a good job, to make improvements, to be productive, and how that can just be like, that flame can be blown away so easily. If you just have like, it's not hard to have good leadership, it's not hard to have I mean, well,
I think it is
hard,
actually,
but
it seems to be hard based on, our track record as a nation and an industry.
I would say yes, but I would like to also give, like, say that society can be, it's hard in the way that keeping your home clean is hard,
Yeah.
It's so easy to just like be a slob. It's so easy. But at the same time, you can care about your environment. You can like put in the energy, you can set up the systems, the schedule, whatever you have to do to make a good environment.
That's a good metaphor, because it is not easy necessarily, especially if you have a lot going on, if you're really busy, but like it is known, like, to clean your house or to be a good leader, you don't have to like build a rocket from scratch. Like,
right.
You just have to do some fundamental things, maintain some habits. That's a really, I'm going to steal that metaphor. I'm going to use that. Like, good leadership. Like,
go for it,
house,
please. It's just maintaining the house,
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be hard. Maybe I should put it that way. Yeah.
Well, those were the ones that came to mind, because I think back when I think about like the worst, technical problems. It was like, oh, the system was down or the customer was upset or something. Like, what made those upsetting was the other thing I mentioned, the lack of like community support, fairness, consistency.
Yeah.
Because like I would go to the leadership team, to my peers, and say, I'm just going to speak vaguely, but like at a few jobs ago, I would go to the leadership team, my peers, and I would say, this thing is messed up. I need time to invest in this. And I think long-term, we need to build a department to do XYZ, like customer support or this. And they're like, oh yeah, totally. But then there was no follow-up. There was no budget. I was told like, oh yeah, we have budget for it. But like nothing changed, Yeah. Just that, yeah. Ugh. That's what made it frustrating. Like, I loved all the technical challenges. I loved building weird stuff and figuring out unknown things.
Oh yeah,
like,
sure.
That was always fun.
Yeah.
It's the people that made computer jobs so frustrating over the years.
Yeah. It's the clear hypocrisy, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't see something like that and continue to feel good about things, you know.
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
yeah, just be a genuine person. Be
yeah,
consistent. Help others to be heard. It's
yeah,
not so
yeah.
hard.
And I almost feel like the software development field, honestly, probably does better than most fields. It's like I don't know. As we're talking about this, I feel like if we were talking to a different working class, they'd be like, "Oh, that's all you had to deal with," you know. But it really does make a difference, and I'm sure that people who've dealt with worse, maybe even some of our listeners, you
Yeah.
know, still would appreciate a better environment and might even be willing to do better or more work in those better environments. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Things to think about.
Well, I think it was like our second episode, I we said something about like, keeping up with Swift is better than crushing rocks. So
Oh,
like
yeah.
for sure the ergonomics and workplace environment of a computer job is better than, working in a mine, but your problems are still your problems. Like I would not just because things are better than they were does not mean they could still be better. Can't we make this more fair, more equitable, more enjoyable? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Especially from teams of people who literally build systems for a living.
Yeah. That engineer mindset. You're like, we have all the tools. We know how to build a system.
Yep.
Come on, let's do it for our team.
Right, right.
Yeah. Last week I mentioned that the contacts app in Tahoe was so terrible that I wanted to re-implement the old version. My goal is to make a just a single window, use a few storyboard files or zibs,
Mm-hmm.
and basically just make a contacts app from Sequoia. Maybe make it a little better, but like the contacts app in Tahoe is just driving me crazy. And I'm not even a power user. I open it up, I want to update a contact, and it accidentally calls someone. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I I when I do searches for some reason, it's like showing me the Siri suggestion and the person, even though I already
Huh.
merged the Siri suggestion. Like, so, I had like 3 Davids for a minute, but like they
Oh,
would
wow.
flicker in and out. And this
Sorry,
was this
that's
was
my
your
fault with all
contact
my email
information.
addresses. Sorry.
No, you got to keep them guessing, yeah.
Yeah.
But I wanted your contact card to be updated, and
Yeah.
it was just flickering and then popping in, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Anyway, so
Mm-hmm.
this segment is not about complaining about Tahoe. We've got enough of that for now. So this last weekend, I opened up Xcode for the first time in a long time,
Ooh.
and I look at an empty project, and I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? And you had said, check out um, the coding assistant.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I've used Claude in the terminal for work stuff,
Okay.
mostly like uh, back end code, nothing really production ready. I've
Mm-hmm.
used OpenAI in the browser for little scripts and stuff. Like it's done all right at Python, especially, it's gotten better lately. But
Mm-hmm.
I've never used the Xcode assistant, with context of
Yeah.
the project.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it can do something cool.
Mm.
So I had just an app delegate and an empty storyboard file.
Mm-hmm.
And I says to the coding assistant, I says, all right, I can read it verbatim. It was, yeah, I would like to make a contacts app that matches the features and functions of the Mac OS 10 or Mac OS Sequoia
Oh no.
contacts app exactly.
I can
Uh,
tell you already this has gone to high level than it should have, but yeah, let's hear how it went.
Oh yeah. Well, this like I tooted about it on Mastodon, and
Okay.
I got just 2 very polite replies. They weren't like, "Oh, dummy, you did it wrong," but I'll get to those in a sec. So, and I was using ChatGPT 5.0,
Mm,
I
mhm.
think, you can select 5 or 4, and then you can also select Claude.
Mm.
I have to figure out how to get the Claude license connected to my personal stuff. Like, I'm working on that.
Mm.
But ChatGPT came back and said, to its credit, all right, the macOS Sequoia version of Context did all this stuff. So what I imagine is a single window application that has these things, that uses the Contacts API
Mhm.
and allows visual viewing and then editing, something like that. And I
Mhm.
say, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Let's go.
Right.
And iteratively, it like does stuff and makes changes, and then it asks me some questions along the way. And
Mhm.
for some reason, it got hung up on there's a reason that you have to put into the info p list, a
Oh.
reason for asking for
Okay. Yeah.
contacts access.
Uh-huh.
And for some reason, it got hung up on that. And I was like, the p list is right there. And
Right.
it's like, where's the p list? And I'm like, it's
Like,
right there. And it says, where is the
you
p
know what
list?
to do, AI. Just do it.
Yeah. So I did it myself, and I said, don't worry about it. I got the p list in there.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Wait a sec, just a timeout. Is describing is describing a chat with a AI chatbot like describing your dreams to somebody? Like, is this the same level of boring?
No, I'm loving this. I'm like I'm very much in like diagnostic mode over here. I'm like, okay, it didn't work well for him. What
Yeah.
can we fix?
Why? Yeah. Why did the machine not work? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a murder mystery, a very low
Yeah.
stakes murder mystery.
Yes, yeah.
So back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it
Mhm.
says, okay, if you added that thing to the p list, I've updated all the stuff. I used the storyboard that you wanted to.
Mhm.
You should be able to, or not even you should. It said build and run, and let me know if you have any trouble. And I go, cool.
Mhm.
And so having full faith, I go and I hit that play button,
Mhm.
and I just get like 50 errors, not
Oh,
warnings,
yeah,
just straight up
sure.
errors. Things are not
And how much
connected.
code would you say it wrote? Did it write a few files? Did it write an entire class? Like what
It
are we
it
talking?
did it did 4 files, 4 Swift files,
In one go or
and
within this short line of prompting?
in total, after like a bunch
Okay.
of back and forths, maybe like 10 prompts. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, not a lot still, but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the robot, it made 4 files, and I'm trying to remember. I have it on my computer, but I don't want to dig through it. It had
Sure, yeah.
about like 200 lines to each
Okay.
file, with
Oh,
white space
okay.
and
Ooh,
stuff.
not small files.
I mean, and so like me not even reading it, like I just skim over it, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
it's referencing variables that don't exist. It declared a
Mm.
delegate property with no protocol, and it didn't make it didn't make a delegate variable on the receiving class.
Ugh.
Uh it said it set up the storyboard, but there was
Uh-huh.
nothing in the storyboard. It was just the main menu. So
Oh, man.
there was
Well,
nothing.
oh, yeah.
And so then, committed to the bit, I
Uh-huh.
try to say like, hey, it didn't build. There's a lot of errors.
Mm-hmm.
Please fix them. And
Mm-hmm.
then this is where I'm unclear. I should check the docs or look at tutorials. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure how much context the chatbot has,
Oh.
because it was like, okay, I fixed them. I was like, no, you didn't. You didn't do anything. And it said, oh,
Yeah.
well, could you share the errors with me? So I'm like, okay. So I copy pasted,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like, oh, totally. I get it now. Yeah, I'll fix
Mm.
these.
Mm.
And so, as always, yeah, this sort of sycophantic, people pleaser bot
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is like, oh, I totally fixed it now. And
Yeah.
again, it had only introduced more warnings and errors.
Yes, yeah. These are honestly nothing you're describing is unusual for people getting into AI development for the first time. So don't feel
Yeah.
bad about this experience.
Oh
It's
no.
totally
I don't.
normal.
I thank you. I don't feel bad. Chat
Okay.
GPT should feel bad.
Yeah. Or maybe I should add to that. Don't feel like don't let this ruin it for you either, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I have seen at work and online,
Mm-hmm.
varying degrees of success from other people, and I realize that there's a lot. I mean, these are non-deterministic LLMs, so like,
Yeah.
um, I
Yeah.
I posted a truncated version of this on Mastodon, and I was like, whatever, I'll try Claude later, because I saw some tutorials that had a lot more luck with Claude starting from scratch. Like, don't even have a
Okay.
project. Just say,
Uh-huh.
hey Claude, make me an Xcode project, an app that meets all these requirements and have sort of a spec.
Sure.
So I'll try that out next weekend.
Okay.
What are you thinking?
Yeah, I've got a response for you. Basically, you are working at a very high level with this AI, ChatGPT in this case, and the tough thing is that okay, the easiest way to describe this is that AIs are limited by the number of tokens that they can process.
Yeah.
And those tokens are often just limited to the prompts, the words that you supply them and what they process back to you. But often there's also a lot of things that go on in the background that you might have seen. Sometimes it'll say like taking some time to think or something like that.
Yeah.
That's burning up tokens too. And when you work at such a high level, what you're doing is you're requiring it to make up a lot of the tokens that it works with on its own. And for something like that request where you're like, all right, this is a basic app, I want to make it for me. That's a lot of tokens to really kind of process on its own. Uh, and the simple way of saying that is like you're making it do a lot of mental work. With all of that mental work, what you're also introducing is more opportunity for mistakes, for errors, and with the knowledge that these things are imperfect machines, imperfect systems, the more opportunity there are for errors, the more errors there are going to be. A lot more errors. And so, the best thing, maybe you've already gotten this advice, the best thing that I've figured out how to do with these things is to not make them develop for me, but to make them develop with me. So I'm still the developer. I'm still deciding the architecture, the files. I'm going to be the developer with it, and I'm going to make these files. I'm going to make the basic skeleton of the architecture, and then I'm going to go in and ask it to fill it in piece by piece. And this might feel a little bit silly because then it's like, well, isn't it supposed to build it for me? But at the same time, what you're doing is you're getting it to build those pieces for you just at a more granular level. And so this is great for us as like experienced developers because we've worked with architectures, we've worked with different systems, we know different ways to build things. All we have to do is kind of get in there and then say like, hey, it needs to have this function, make that function. And if you get to that level where you're writing individual functions at a time, it can be very accurate. And especially with some knowledge of an architecture that you have, some tools that you have. For example, if you write a networking manager, it might need to know what that looks like before it can do it accurately, and you might have to remind it every time you're gonna work with the network. But the trick is working at that granular level, not necessarily giving it this large task to do and figuring out all of the small things itself, because it's not going to figure it out, sadly, and not at this point. Actually, some people have had varying success with that, depending on the complexity of the app.
If you go, what's his name, Gallagher, Cocoa with Love, a week or two ago, looked at the state of just sort of one-shot development like this, and he tried out a couple different models and sort of graded them. So yeah, I'm gonna try some sort of one shot out of the box with the other, maybe a better spec, maybe a different model.
Sure.
But yeah, I realize, what'd you say a minute ago? Like, the less that you can leave to chance, the more scaffolding that you provide as the developer, the smaller the changes, probably the more effective it'll be. But, at this point, that's not what I want. I want the app.
What I'll also add to that is like what you were doing with the like one shot prompts. That's like chasing a unicorn. Like your chances of success with that are very low.
But some lunatic on LinkedIn said that he did that. I thought
I know, right? And here's the funny thing: people will even edit videos to make it look like more has happened than it really has. People
Yeah.
people make up stories and want to impress others or get some online clout, you know.
Yeah. Ugh,
But
the great machine is going.
yeah, and hey, who knows? Maybe one day it will work like that. I mean, like we've had
Yeah.
science fiction for years. We've been making up stuff forever, right? Maybe one day we'll get there.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
right
yeah.
now it does still involve a little bit more of an involved hand. And I do
Yeah.
actually encourage. I'm like, I'll get behind you on figuring out those one-shot apps because that sounds awesome and like a
Yeah.
huge time saver. But I think the reality of it is like the majority of the time you're gonna have to hold its hand a little bit more.
Yeah.
And the truth is it will really speed things up. For example, like I mean, you know that I work on my own apps.
Hmm.
Um Oftentimes I'm coming to my project with like, all right, what features do I want to complete today? And then I just basically go to the file that it needs to work in. I tell it like, you know, the basic functions that are involved with it, and it's done like literally in just a few prompts. I almost feel
Nice.
like I should be like working way more, like spending way more time on these projects because they'd probably like be completed already, but I get about as much work done as I would in a few days in just like an hour or two,
Yeah.
and I feel great about it. You know,
Not
um,
bad.
I think you'll
Yeah.
get there if you're willing to give it more of a chance. Because here's the slightly disappointing thing that I see happen with a lot of other developers. Honestly, sometimes it feels like good that other developers don't get it because that means I'm one of the few who can really like get things done. You know. But
Yep.
but it is also slightly disappointing because they'll have that experience that you had and then they'll like dismiss it completely, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Um they'll say
I'll
like this is
continue.
like clearly not ready.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
not ready for this. But yeah, I know
Yeah.
personally, if you give it a large, like a huge scaffolding, like I've seen
Yeah.
incredible things.
Mhm.
Well, it's not really incredible given all the things that we know about how they work, but
Sure.
given like an existing app and say, port this from Python to
Mhm.
Rust or
Mhm.
something wacky like that, or
Sure.
C++ to Kotlin.
Mhm.
Like I've seen it. I've seen these chatbots, blast through that with great
Okay.
success. It's
Mhm.
been really great for debugging too. Like I've been able to just
Mm.
Datadog, a monitoring system, has a little AI thing. I've been able to use Claude to just sort of copy an error and be like, "Where do you
Nice.
think this is coming from?" And
Yeah.
it pops back and it says, "I think it looks like it's here. You
Yeah.
should probably fix it in this way." And I go back to engine like my colleagues, and they're like, "Oh yeah, there it is." So like
Awesome.
I know there's value there. It's just
Yeah.
like you said, trying to disambiguate the hype.
Yeah,
So
I think
I'll
that's where you're at. You're like figuring
yeah
out like its strengths and weaknesses because actually what you just described, taking a huge data dump from an error, is a
yeah
huge strength of it. You know, it's basically able to take like very complex things and simplify it and summarize it really well. But it's a little bit bad at the reverse, where it takes a simple prompt and makes this huge complex thing. You know.
yeah
But yeah, I'm excited for you to like be wrestling with it and getting a grip on what its capabilities are.
yeah. I'll report back.
Welcome to
NSCoder Chicago. NSCoder Chicago.
welcome to
NSCoder Chicago.
That's our episode for the NSCoder Chicago podcast this week. Thanks for joining us.
NSCoder Chicago is a meetup here in Chicago for Mac, iOS, Vision OS. What other platforms do they have? Join us on the last Tuesday of every month. We have a meetup downtown. All are welcome, even if you're just getting started or you're just excited about the platforms. We'd love to see you. More information is available on our website, nscoder-chicago.com, or look for us on meetup.com.